I think that's good. Well, hello and welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Happy Friday night. Is it Friday? It is Friday, isn't it? Happy Friday night, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktail Time. I'm at a different place right now. I am not in the breezeway where the set is. What'll I do about this? The problem with the breezeway, I bet you know what I'm going to say, is it's very cold. So I don't know what I was thinking. I got myself all set up and ensconced in there, and it is only the beginning of November, but it is cold. So you see where I am. We might need a little bit of help with this. Thank you. You know what I might do actually? Yeah, just put it down. Just put it down. Um, I have these little fire starters I made in my candle class. Let me throw these into the fire because it is a real fire. Oops, it didn't land. Let's see what happens because I feel like we could use a little bit more fire. The other one, what do you think is going to happen to the other one? Is it just going to rot over on the side? They're so pretty. They're made of candle wax. It was that night I took that candle class. But this is a real fire behind me, and you know what that means? It's warm. I'm cold all the time. The pendulum swung very, very far from being in my 50s and being hot all the time to just being cold all the time. So I need more of this stuff behind me. This stuff right here. Happy Friday night. I hope you are warm and cozy where you are. Isn't it funny how fast things change? I feel like when I look down, I just saw Cheryl's name. I feel like when I look down, that I was just looking at like seashells, emojis of seashells and starfish and things like that because it was summer and it was hot and I was running my mouth complaining about how hot it was. And now, so quickly, blink of an eye, right? All right. Well, let me come back over here and say, cheers, my dear Cheryl. Great to see you. You were out raking leaves for hours. Great to mellow out. I see a glass of red wine, puzzle piece. I like that. And the maple leaf. So nice. Speaking of leaves, speaking of raking leaves, last night at church it was Vespers, the first Thursday of the month is Vespers. And I was heavily involved with the one last night, which was such a pleasure. I came up with the name of it. Remember, I told you when I had that brainstorm about raking leaves on a windy day as a metaphor, just for life in general. And we were able to sort of piece together poems like Robert Frost's Falling Leaves and Gathering Leaves. There's a lot of leaf poems from Robert Frost. Gathering Leaves, like spoons. And a nice one by John Rodell, Wonder Wind. Beautiful poetry. And we incorporated this book called The Attic of the Wind, which I've also shared on our Facebook channel years ago. Beautiful story about when the wind blows, where all of those things go, like all of your old Valentines and postcards from vacations and balloons from those band concerts and parades and the broken umbrellas and the hats and the kites and all of those things that you thought you lost are actually up there in the attic of the sky. It's such a beautiful poem. And I sang a song called, I already forgot, what was it? Lullaby of the Leaves. And as usual, it was one of the, not as usual, but it was one of those stressful moments where there was no time to rehearse. And I realized that I had sent the music to the piano player, but it was available in many keys. And he had it in a very, very high key. So I was very stressed that I had to, on a dime, sing it in like an opera voice rather than my cabaret voice, which I'm way more comfortable in. It was still a beautiful service. And one of the best parts about it was that Reverend Bob, who led it, had a moment where he had this basket of leaves that he had collected outside on the church lawn. And he let us all take a leaf, and we were all smelling them, and like we'd never seen a leaf before. And we've been talking about gathering leaves and the effort and what for and all of that. And there was a moment where I did that song, and then we all got to go out on the balcony. There's this beautiful big balcony, and sort of do like a make a wish kind of a thing. And some people crumpled up the leaves and just let them like fall to dust. I threw mine full, but I guess everyone was thinking different things, and that's what made it so nice. And when we got in, one of the guys in the audience, right, one of my buddies, he asked if he could tell a story. He's an older guy, and he told this story, it's very flexible services that we have over there. They're inspirational and a lot of poetry and philosophy and music, particularly Vespers. And he told this great story about when he was young, they would, because it was legal then, they would rake up all the leaves and burn them. And I mean, I remember this too. I remember bonfires with leaves and the smell of that, and it was such a good smell. Um, he remembered doing that, and then he said he moved at a certain point, and he was burning his leaves, and a neighbor came over and said, "You can't, don't burn the leaves." It wasn't because it was illegal. They said, "That's not what you do with the leaves." Then he said, "Get all the bags, get the bags." And he got all of these bags of leaves that he, raked them and put them into bags. And the guy pushed them up really tight against the foundation of the house, like around the back where the basement was. And he said, "You just leave them here, for the season. They're insulation. It's free heat." And it was just a neat story. It made me think, interesting. We've got a lot of leaves out there, but I suppose with that scenario, you would have to rake them, right? So, which we haven't done because there's like nobody anywhere near us. So nobody's complaining that our leaves are blowing in their yard because we're at the top of a mountain up here. Melissa, great to see you. Good evening. Happy Friday night. Kirsten, happy Friday. I saw you left me a message. Haven't had a chance yet. I was kind of at the last minute putting the slides in. It was a busy day again because I host my weekly group. If you're anywhere near Hartford, I host a weekly group at the church, right, which is in Hartford, Bloomfield Ave. And we all do different things. Janet was there today working on her knitting. She gets so frustrated. She knits a little bit. She's determined. She's very stubborn. She's a very stubborn knitter. She's determined to make it work, and she hates the yarn that she's using. So she goes a little ways, and then she makes some kind of a exclamation or bad word. And I always look over and say, "What's going on over there?" And she's like, I hate this. And we have a whole cabinet of yarn there, but she is determined to use the yarn that she's got. She was doing her thing. Me and my mom were painting our signage for the Yuletide Festival. You are always welcome to come. If you are anywhere near here or you're passing through on a Friday, I have that huge cupboard of yarn, and it's wool yarn, it's roving, it's mixed yarn, it's novelty, it's everything. Oh, there's my little fire starter right there. He must have pulled that one out. And I'm always happy to teach. I've got frames over there that I leave there, and I've got hooks and everything else. I'm always happy to teach. Never a charge. If you come and we're doing our Friday thing, that's what I'm there for, is to, when people stop in and they're feeling whatever, they can learn how to hook, or they can learn how to, I can teach them how to crochet or how to do simple knitting. Not everything, but between us, we cover a lot of crafts. So you are always welcome to come. Becky, great to see you. Mellowing out is good. It is. Evening, everyone. Plan on just hooking and listening. Sounds great. I have a great book for you tonight. One of the books that was one of those books that Rug Hooking Magazine gave for the swag bags at the Halloween party, right? So this is this book. This is Karen D. Miller, Mothering. So this is one of the Rug Hooking Magazine publications, right? And this is what we're going to look at tonight. By the way, I completely forgot. It really has been a busy week, and although I am better, I'm not 100% better. What's up? What do I have? Consumption? I mean, what is the problem here? Um, anyway, I'm moving slow, and that's not like me. But I was thinking I made some extra swag bags for the party. I made as many as I could. So I did want to offer them up. So I'll probably first go to Patreon after the show. I'll figure out how many swag bags are left. And I'm sorry, Jocelyn's engaged in her room with the door shut, but she's still noisy. Um, I'll put them up, and I'll put like a really good price on them. And I'll tell you right now, spoiler alert, so earmuffs, if you don't want to know, the swag bags have a free pattern that's a winter pattern. It is gridded, and there's like a, I guess, QR code, right? It's a square that's like has the pattern in it that brings you to a hidden page on Ribbon Candy Hooking that lets you open it up if you want to blow it up on your computer rather than do something with gridding. Maybe remember we were talking about gridding on Monday when we were talking about Donna Harkman's book and how she does routinely do gridding to transfer her patterns. Anyway, there's a winter pattern. It's not a Christmas pattern. It's a winter pattern that involves a sheep that's in that bag. There is a wrapped book, one of the books from Rug Hooking Magazine, and I don't know which one it is because they're already wrapped. And there is a yarn bat, the famous yarn bats. And I feel I have to do the yarn bats every time I do a swag bag because it's so much new novelty material for people. And even if you had it last year, it's going to be different material. So I just feel like it's very useful. And I see it popping up all over the place and I recognize it. So it makes me feel like this is a worthy thing to put in a swag bag. So I do have some left over. It is a nice swag bag, and I'll pop them up on Patreon after the show, and I'll let you know how many there are. And then if there are still some left over, I'll figure out what to do. But there's no point in me just keeping them there because I'll do a different swag bag next year. You know what I mean? So. Judy, great to see you. Oh, you're doing some sewing. Oh, very nice. I was doing some sewing last night too. It seemed so awkward having a needle in my hand because that hardly ever happens. I had a pretty dress I wanted to wear, so dress I got from India, really lush print, but the way that it was cut was super, super, super low. So I needed to get out the needle and thread, and it was kind of like, um, yeah, the whole struggle with putting the needle through the eye and where's the needle threader and all of that stuff. It is fun. It is fun. I don't do it that often anymore. It's nice to picture you doing it. Leah, great to see you. I love seeing your family photos on Facebook. Happy Friday to you too from Newfoundland. You have snow on the ground already. Oh my God. I'm not surprised. My buddy Linda Ann was also Canada, Western Canada, was saying that there was the prediction of snow, a couple of inches. And I thought, surely not, right? But there it is. Well, happy sort of winter, right? It is beautiful in its way. And Karen, great to see you in Black Forest, Colorado. Welcome back. Yeah, it depends on where you are, right? It's the time when it can start up, and it's starting up. Great to see you, Catherine. Great to see you. You are on time, and you got the notification. That's a good start, right? So I put it up this morning. I was hoping that I had it up in a good amount of time and everything. I have to remind myself to set it up in advance. It's one of those things. Wish I could do it from my phone, but I can't. It would be really handy if I could. Program just doesn't work that way. It's like super, super buttony. And Diane, great to see you. Oh, Suze, I'm sorry. Great to see you in Kansas. Beautiful scenery. Oh, I bet the fall leaves, the candlelight. Oh no, my fire went out. Oh, my fire went out. Here, let me throw the other thing on. Let's see. Maybe I can make something happen. It's called it. There it goes. It landed right on it. That's called a fire starter. Um, how can it be a fire starter? It's just wax inside a paper cupcake thing. I don't know. We'll see. Is it doing? It did one little flame. It was roaring right before I went live. It was absolutely roaring. Mm. Oh well, we're going to change screens anyway when we start looking at Karen's book. And okay, Diane, great to see you. Linda B, great to see you. Cheers on a chilly, rainy night in Jersey. So good to be warm inside. Um, with rug making on my mind. Absolutely, me too. Gail, great to see you in Australia. Good morning to you too, my lovely. Happy coffee time to you. It's reversed. And you are heading into your summer. Everything's reversed, right? How funny is that to think how different it can be in one world? It's crazy. Patricia, great to see you. Good evening. Just back from your rug show. One more day. Patricia, give us the details. Did I help with posting that in the Facebook group, or if there's anything I can do to help promote it, let me know. But Patricia, tell us where it is, just in case tomorrow is the day. One more day. It's like Scrooge on Christmas morning. We haven't quite missed it yet. There's always the chance. I bet it's a beautiful rug show. I hope you're taking pictures, because if you're able to share them, I could share them here, and I would love to share the pictures from your rug show. That'd be a great episode. Joy, great to see you. Happy Friday. Kanga, great to see you. Welcome back. Delightfully similar children's book, When the Wind Blows. Oh, interesting. When the Wind Blows. Oh, I don't know that one. I'll check that out as soon as we're done. I like these kinds of stories because for me, at least with the Attic of the Wind, it makes me feel like stuff is not worthless, like memories and things that are gone that are not going to happen again. That it's not gone. It's not really gone. Well, I'll be anxious to look at When the Wind Blows. That's great. I got another great book recommendation earlier. Um, it's a good book day. Joyce, great to see you. Happy Friday in the Poconos. The Wind Blows by Pat Hutchins. All right, I'm going to take a picture of the screen. That's going to be the easiest way for me to remember because it's a simple kind of a title. I'm going to check that out. Thank you so much. Oops. Ruth, great to see you. You are both there, you and Richard. Hello and happy Friday to both of you. I'm happy to know that things are going good over there. Doris, I'm sorry I skipped right over you, and you are not a skippable person. Good evening and happy cocktail night from changing weather in Missouri. I bet everything is changing so quickly. And Mom, there you are. You're back from getting the pizza. Hello, hello. So happy to be here with Deanna and all our rug hooking clan. Oh, fun. Lynn, great to see you. I just sent you a message. Hope to be able to watch the entire live show. Let's see what happens. So you know what? Let me get started. Let me get comfortable. I'm not usually in this place. I'm on my little vanity chair from Home Goods. It's very comfortable. Fire's out. Forget the fire. You saw it for a second, right? You knew it was there. It was bound to make me hot in the next 30 seconds anyway. So, there were a few books that came up at the Halloween party. Rug Cooking Magazine sent some extra. Some of them had bangs and booms, so I took the bangs and booms ones that I didn't have because I thought this is a good opportunity to talk about some books that I missed too. And I missed the book by Karen D. Miller called Mothering. Now, this book, okay, so the theme is it's mothering, isn't it? It is a general book, I have to say. So this could be a pro or con depending on where you're coming from and what you want out of the book. So just basic sort of specs first. This is a Rug Cooking Magazine, so an Ampry Press book. This book is $28.95. That's the book price. It is 105 pages. It is obviously a full color book. So other specs, because I have not looked at the text of it yet. I was kind of waiting for that to do this together. Um, oh, where'd my pillow go? Sorry. There it is. Oh. Um, so it is part text, part hooked rugs, but it's a lot of other mediums. So just so you know, it's not all hooked rugs. There's embroidery, there's sculpture, there's clothing. There are other crafts. So if you are a purist and it triggers you or you feel disappointed if you get a book that isn't purely rug hooking, just so you know, it's all pure inspiration, but it is not all rug hooking. It is mostly rug hooking. The full name of the book is The Art of Mothering Mothering Our Lives, the Art of Mothering Our Lives in Color and Shadow. And it is mixed artists as well, so it's not all Karen. So know those things going in because sometimes books tend to be a collection of patterns or finished pieces that are all one author. And for example, any of Amy Oxford's books, my friend Rebecca, I often do stuff that's just like it's my patterns. It's different people hooking them, but it's my patterns. This one is mixed. So it does. So on the plus side, there's a lot of variety, right? But if you're thinking, oh, I like Karen so much, I want to see all Karen stuff, it is mixed, right? So it's a book sort of skeleton that is like it's a bit of a potpourri. So there are different mediums represented in here. They're all fiber mediums and a little bit of sculpture, like wire sculpture. And it's mixed makers. So it's almost like an anthology or a compilation. It's almost that kind of an idea. Because at the end of the day, when you're going for a subject like mothering, how many pieces can you think of off the top of your head if you're online and you're on the sites, you're on whatever, how many rugs can you think of off the top of your head that you think that one's about either a mother or a family? um, for me it's not very many. And you know it weirdly, because our families are really at the center of most of our worlds. And whether you have children or you have friends who have children or you're close with other family members, those central people in your lives are the biggest part of your story in most cases. But at the end of the day, hooking faces and hooking literal stories is very technical and it's not for everyone. And I think a lot of hookers and traditional hookers who love primitive style and who love the sort of the olden days of hooking, right? Don't think to hook people in situations, family members. Don't think about portraiture as one of the possibilities for your next composition. Patricia says, we are, you are, oh, Vestal, Patricia, you are in Vestal. Vestal, New Hampshire, I'm sorry, New York. Why did I say that? Sometimes I'm in New Hampshire. This time it's New York, right? I saw another show, Linda Hadlock, I think, just posted something in New Hampshire, a show this weekend as well. So that was enough to confuse me, Patricia. So you are in Vestal, New York from 10 to 4. So if you are near that part of New York, you know it already. So this will be, Patricia, is it in like one of the public buildings, or is it up in, what building is it in? Just in case there are people who are on and they're thinking, oh, I can definitely hop over there tomorrow. Some beautiful rugs and free rug hooking classes. Fantastic. That's fantastic. If you can, take some photos. Or if you know anyone who's taking photos, see if they'll send them to me so I can incorporate them into one of these shows. I would love to see some of those rugs. That would be a fantastic show for us. Um, it's a little bit further. I am going to be in New York tomorrow. I'm going to be more around Saratoga Springs, so I'm still going to be about still 4 hours away, even when I get there, I think. But I'm sure it's a wonderful show. And I feel like last time I was there, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was somewhere else, that there was a show around that time that I had just missed or I was just about to miss. Anyway, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful show. And if you are near Vestal, New York, make sure that you move the earth tomorrow. So I bet that Patricia's going to tell us what building it's in. But see if you can get there and see if everybody can take some good pictures because we can share in on that. So mothering, let's look at some of the pieces in here. I'm not going to look at all of the pieces together. They are all beautiful pieces, and they are all worthy pieces. This is a great piece. Somehow I didn't take a picture of the frontispiece. It's called Big Sister, Little Brother, 14 by 11, wool yarns and acrylic yarns on linen. Karen is from Ottawa, Ontario. And this piece was done the others are already in the slideshow, in 2015. So you see what I mean? When you see pieces like this, they are really striking. Now that I'm looking at this piece, I'm thinking that our friend, and maybe you're already logged on, Jessica Troyer, often does family pieces. Family, saying goodbye to her mother was a huge theme in her early rug hooking. And a lot of those pieces are family pieces and are pieces about different roles, people play in different families. And for me, that's the exception. I don't see a lot of people rugs that revolve around families. I also have to say, not all the rugs in this book are about families and mothering. There are like other categories of rugs, like flowers, things like that. There are other rugs in here that don't exactly fit the title of the book. So again, if you're a purist, you might flip through and go, wait a minute. But at the end of the day, they're all beautiful rugs. So the Methodist Church, that's where we were, right, Patricia? The Methodist, we were definitely at the Methodist Church. That was a beautiful building, and it had ample parking. So the Methodist Church, Main Street, Vestal, New York. There we go. Seriously, make your way there. This is a large guild, and such a talented group, and such a friendly group as well. So get on over there. All right, so let's start the slideshow. Let's see what she says first. Because I didn't read the text first. I was kind of saving it. Wait a minute, I got to show you this little cutie too. Snow Buddy. Snow Buddy. This is Karen's own piece. 14 by 11. Oh, wool yarns and acrylic yarns on linen. I'm going to show you this one closer up, but I'm looking at Snow Buddy here. That cute little face. And I think the thing is, at the end of the day, the one thing that stops people from hooking people they love is the difficulty level. And I'm just reminded, Mom, of the story that you told today when we were together in our art group, Getting Hot Now. My mom told this funny story, and I think this says it all about portraiture. It was a true family story that I hadn't heard before, and she was talking about how her grandmother, who was my great grandmother, was super, super, super religious, like very, very devout, and was the kind of person who, if they had services 6 days a week, she'd go all 6 days, very religious person. And constantly praying, and it's a huge part of her life. And so my aunt, my mother's sister, decided when she was younger, and she was quite a good artist. She went to school for art. She was the only one in the family who went to college. She went for art. She's a very, very good artist. She decided to paint a portrait of Jesus to give to the grandmother as a gift, like a Christmas gift or a birthday gift or something. And she thought, what else would she possibly want but a depiction of Jesus? That has to be the ultimate gift, right? So she painted it, like took real pains to make it beautiful and perfect, and the hair and the face and the glow and everything. And the grandmother unwrapped it and she said, "That doesn't look like him." I think that's so funny, as if anybody would know. I mean, I thought that was so funny. It's so my aunt, she took it back and she made some refinements to it, and then the grandmother accepted it because she hung it up on the wall. But it's the point is that when you're doing a portrait of somebody, um, if you know what they look like and it doesn't look like them, that can be very irritating and that can be very triggering, and it can be enough to just back you up from the project, from hooking, from whatever for the time being, because it can become so fiddly when you're working on a cheek or an eyebrow or a lash or a face or a nose or a glimmer. It's so hard to get it right in hooking, even when you're hooking with a very small cut. Now, if you do it all the time, you're used to it. This is, I think, one of the reasons why I'm going to use this as a general term, the Canadian style of hooking, right? The sort of, I should say more specifically, like the Dion Fitzpatrick style of hooking is very, very clever because it's showing people in within a setting that's often like a work setting, like I'm a fisherman, or I work on a farm, or I'm some kind of a laborer, or I'm an older lady with a handkerchief like tied over my hair in a old jacket, right? You get a real feel for place and age and time. You get a feel for the posture, everything, but not the facial expressions on the person because the faces are blank. And while and this is kind of a device that goes back to the earlier 20th century, when we start seeing modern artists um, doing compositions and expressionism and post-expressionism without facial expressions, just the bare face. And sometimes it's striking as being sort of ominous or foreboding. But in rug hooking, it remains very warm because the medium is very warm, right? It's very tactile, the materials that we use for hooking. So seeing a sort of blank face or an anonymous face in rug hooking feels like a placeholder and is weirdly successful and not distracting, in my opinion. And this is sort of the way that it's been going, at least in the style of many now Canadian artists, and other artists in other parts of the world are inspired by this style. I don't want to say shortcut. It's not a shortcut. It is an intentional decision to take away that layer of interest, right? The face. Because as soon, no matter whether or not the face is successful, the details are successful, it will distract because you will look at that face and you will automatically say to yourself, it looks like so and so. I hate so and so, right? Maybe not that, but you know what I mean. We're human beings and we're always looking to relate. And we do that with art too, and photographs and news. When you see a face, you can't help but try to relate to the face. When there is no face, you are forced to focus on everything else that's happening in the picture, right? The setting, the mood, the colors, whatever piece of storytelling that piece is telling you, but not the face. So remember that when we look at this book too, because you might be saying to yourself, I love the book. I love Karen's work. Um, I feel it's out of my sort of wheelhouse because I don't do faces. Remember, everything in life has a workaround. This is a very benign workaround, just skipping doing the face. Methodist Church. Oh, my mom says Ted just walked by with his plate of pizza and asked me to say hello to mom. Hello, Teddy Bear, my sweetheart. He's overstaying with Gami tonight. Leah says, haha, the things that some grandmothers say. I know, it's so crazy, isn't it? So crazy. I'm laughing and you're retelling. I never heard that story before, Mom. That was a great story about the Jesus portrait. I love that. So when you're thinking, the mother, this book has a lot of portraits in it. So, and we looked at a lot of portraits the other day when we looked at Donna Harkman's book. Don't let it put you off. Think, be a problem solver, right? Don't be easily talked out of something, like a great idea that you have to do a portrait that involves a person, right? Whether it's a mother or a different family member or even an animal's face. Don't talk yourself out of it before you really think through it, and be the kind of a person who tries to solve problems. Don't be the person at the grocery store where you say, I've been looking for lima beans for 25 minutes. Can you tell me what aisle? And right off the bat, what they want to say is, no, I have no idea where they are. Never heard of lima beans. I have no idea. Don't be that person to yourself. Say to yourself, you know what? I think I could do this. And if I can't do that, I bet that this would work instead. Or at least I'm going to try, right? Gail says hi to Teddy. Even though he won't be able to make a guest appearance because you're not on camera, Mom. I was going to say, oh, maybe he'll pop in, but it's not Zoom. So let's look at some of these in particular. I flashed you a couple. I'm not going to show you everything that's in here because I don't. I like to save some of the mysteries for if you love the book and you buy the book, you want to have some mysteries waiting for you. This piece is called The Slide. See that the blue thing is a slide. I didn't immediately get that. Of course it's a slide. It's one of the twisty slides. This is only 14 by 11. Can you believe that? That's quite small for this amount of detail. Wool yarns and acrylic yarns on linen. And again, Karen D. Miller, Ottawa, 2016. And okay, so in the acknowledgement, she makes quite a few acknowledgments because remember, there are a lot of contributors to the book. And she writes at the bottom a note on motherhood. All of the artists in this book are CIS gendered women who had tried to have or contemplated having children. Of course, there are other perspectives on mothering and many other family arrangements. Okay, so this is very specific. This book acknowledges but does not attempt to capture all of those perspectives. It exclusively portrays the perspectives of 22 artists, including myself, who contributed to it. That is very interesting. I didn't catch that the first time around. That's really interesting. So the first chapter is in the beginning. And she says, and now it begins, except that, of course, this isn't where it begins. Obviously, this moment has always been a possibility for you. You thought about it. So she's talking about mothering. Now, I'm not going to go into every part of this book, in part because I love mysteries and surprises. But some of it, I wouldn't say is graphic, but the first picture I'm looking at is like a truly newborn baby. So I will save that for you. There's a couple that are like, and I'm not very uptight, right? Despite being a New Englander. I won't show you. There is material that is very contemporary where you will see like a uterus, right? I'm just going to put it out there right like that. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't like that kind of stuff, that offends me or whatever, FYI, it's not a lot, right? It's just that in the beginning chapter, there's a couple of images that are very striking, not grotesque, not violent, beautiful images, but striking in that way. All right. And so I'm gonna hop over to chapter 2, which is called Help Wanted, Supermom. And this has an image that is, let me show you this next over here. I really love this slide. Before we leave this image, let's just say, because this is one of Karen's images, this is such a joyful moment, right? I mean, seeing sister and now this is sister and brother, right? Let me just double check. Because it was just called the slide, right? Yeah, just a slide. It's got to be, I think, a sister and brother, because it looks like two little ones. It's just so beautiful. The amount of motion and emotion that's in this piece. Very joyful, very energized, for a piece that, because it's, I think I said 11 by 14, because it has to be a technical piece to have this much detail at this size, it still remains very stylized, right? You see the sort of patterning in the background. You see the swirl of the slide. It is not solid. It is not just a solid slide with highlights on it. You see the posture of the little boy kind of bent over, when kids laugh so hard that they like physically collapse, kind of bent over in the fun and the fright of coming down the slide. And the older child with a more sort of adult smile, right? Not quite so scared, not quite so whipped up, but enjoying it on a different level. And the way that they're connected with their hands and arms and in this embrace, it really is, it's a beautiful idea. Just the idea of two people going down the slide together and having that experience together is just fun, right? It's a joyful thing, and it's a great moment to capture. I have to say, I only went through this book quickly. We're going to go through it again. I'm just flipping through it right now. There is a lot of technique stuff in this book, but I don't remember there being stuff that was specifically, and not every book has to have every aspect of the making process. That's impossible, right? I don't remember there being specific information in this book. I might be proved wrong during the episode, about transferring and like choosing your image and hooking it to get this kind of a likeness. I didn't see on my first blush, first time through, I didn't see that kind of detail. Now, Karen has other books as well, right? And every person does this differently. So this book speaks to a specific audience, as we just saw, and we're looking at images that fall under, for the most part, a theme, right? There are some exceptions. But this is more a book for me that has a gallery and storytelling feel, as opposed to a technical watch my hands do this feel, right? If that's not this book, if you're done with watch my hands do this, then you're going to love this book because there's lots of images to look at and there's lots of stories to read that make the images more special. So that's more the sort of category of book that this is. Now, that is not what I meant to do. Hang on. This is what I meant to do. We'll go back to Michelle McRelli's in just a minute. This one is called Super Moms. Now, hang on while this super mom changes glasses because I can't. There we go. I was going to say I can't see anything. Super Moms. This one is 30 by 60 wool on burlap. Alexandra Eaton, Sackville, New Brunswick, Canada. I'm wondering, okay, I'm wondering if this is her own pattern. I'm guessing it's her own pattern. Let me see what I can find out because anonymous faces, right? So, super moms. Let's see. Chapter 2 starts like this. Now that you're in it, you will have quickly realized that you have been hired into the one of the hardest jobs in the world. Your new boss is completely unreasonable, unable to clearly communicate even the simplest requests, prone to imposing the most ludicrous demands on a whim, and possessing a supernova of a temper that requires no apparent cause for ignition. Your working conditions, if they can be described as such, would violate every known workplace regulation. In fairness, you do have regular hours, those being 24/7. So you know better than to try to plan anything else in your life. And it goes on your coworkers. So it's making a very good joke about the role of being a mother. Um, it's funny. I can't help but digress. I just remember, I mean, I feel I was so lucky with these two kids, particularly having had them abroad. I just felt like it was so easy. I know I got away with something. I know something's going to hit me somewhere down the line because I really got away with something. I just feel like it was so easy. The whole thing was so easy. And am I tired? Yeah, there were times when I was tired, but not that tired. I feel like I really got away with something. When I hear about other moms' experiences, I think, oh my gosh, how did I escape, right? So let me see. Let me see if I can find this section. Alexandra, that's what we want. Okay, Alexandra Eaton has the obvious answer. Be a supermom. In Supermoms, she uses an anonymous female figure sporting a cape. Okay, okay, I see. She is sporting a cape. See the red cape behind? Somehow my eye didn't catch that. I'm being a ding dong because it's very, very clear. Sporting a cape to represent the woman being, which can be taken to mean either a community of women or an individual traveling through her own arsenal of superpowers. Ooh, interesting. I see. Is it women plural? Is it, or is it a woman plural? And I don't mean Sybil, right? I don't mean like she's got multiple personalities. I mean, this is a great way showing the same sort of person in the same sort of costume. Um, it's making the point that this person, if it is an individual, has got to take on multiple roles, and showing the repetition of the costume and the characteristics of the person even without the face really achieves that, doesn't it? And otherwise, it's just a classic, fantastic Canadian landscape built on levels, flowers, ground, grass, sky, and and of course the characters, right? The female character, um, plural, is a bit has a bit of a '60s feel for me. It reminds me of Twiggy and like those, the models in the '60s who kind of walked like this and moved like this. It's a really interesting piece, and I love that it does bring up the conversation on whether this is one woman performing 100 different roles, right? Being 100 different things to 100 different people in a day, or if it is multiple women who are all sharing the same sort of experience. Interesting piece, isn't it? And beautifully done. And for me, this style of hooking really remains like this. For me, this is where the bar is at. It's not the technically most difficult style of hooking, but in terms of artistic success, this style for me, with this level of shadow and sort of graphic simplification, but very careful, composition. The composition is very tight. The colors and everything are perfectly balanced. There's a lot of fine art boxes being ticked here, but there isn't an extraordinary push to make things realistic. And for me personally, this is where my sweet spot falls. This kind of stylizing, I think, is so charming and strikes me as art, like really, really art. I love this piece. And I don't know this artist, Alexandra Eaton. Um, I wonder if she's related to Doris Eaton, right? The famous Canadian rug hooker. I know there's a lot of Eatons. I know that's a common name in Canada. Absolutely beautiful piece. And one of the other things about the Canadian style seems to use more primaries than we do in the U.S. We tend to, whether we're working in the primitive style or not, go for a lot of safe neutrals and a lot of primitive colors, but not primary colors. Primitives and primaries, right? They both have PRI, and yeah, and an M, but no, they're completely different. Primaries are very bright. And I've always disliked primaries because I feel like they are the low hanging fruit. But since I've been a rug hooker, I see a lot of work that has primary colors in it. And I look at it and I think, I was wrong, right? This really sings. And I'm using a lot more primary colors these days, too, incidentally. Beautiful piece, Alexandra Eaton. And, ooh, these are not in order. And why aren't they in order? I loaded them in order. Really, I did. It's okay, I found it. This is another stunner. This is another one by Carol D. Miller. Now, we're going to talk about the sort of, um, not just the inspiration of Karen's work, but Karen has sort of she's got a series of series going within the book. She seems to be a collector of collections, and it's interesting because and I get wanting a series because I love me a series too, right? Whether it's on TV or it's a book series or it's my own series of designs, I love a series because having a series allows you to, um, if you like the story that you're telling, it allows you to continue telling it, but to sort of you start with a backstory, but a blank canvas each time. And that would certainly be the case with rug hooking, right? This is motherhood still life #1 after the bath. And so you know that there's going to be more numbers. And the next one doesn't have to be set in a bathtub, does it? That's the great thing about a series. The one thing they will have in common is that if you have had children around, this is a very familiar sight, right? This is I mean, we didn't do a lot of this, I have to say, because in the Netherlands we didn't have a bathtub. We had just the shower. But when my kids were little, we had the very little bathtub, like the hip bath. And for whatever reason, I guess it's a universal thing. we would put in every toy in the house, even like fabric things that were not meant to be there. Somehow food would also find its way into the bathwater. Like I guess the idea was keep them in as long as possible. It's relaxing, things are going well. I can handle this. I'm sitting in one place, kind of thing. But for whatever reason, it's funny to look at this piece because I kind of thought it was just us who ended up with like all of this junk at the bottom of the bath. But I think it probably is everyone. You just throw in everything to keep baby busy, right? And it is a lot of fun splashing around. Very recognizable, very relatable. Again, wool and acrylic yarn on linen. This was done in 2016. Karen has her pieces framed. In this case, this was framed by Daniel McDonald. Um, I think it's great. She's showing us examples of framed pieces. 25 by 20. I bet that I wouldn't say that's one of the most standard frame sizes, but I bet that's an easy one to get without going custom. Almost everything at this point you can get. If you look for it online, it will be there. This is a beautiful frame. And just a reminder, it is a good idea to pop yourself in a frame because you don't have to worry about the finishing, right? You're putting it in a frame, you're not finishing the edges. So you're saving yourself that trouble as long as you like the frame that you've got. I have to say I was tempted to get a frame a little bit earlier. Oh, I think that was the end of the fire. I had to stop at, well, I didn't have to. I stopped at Home Goods because I realized that emergency. I realized I still had my Halloween hand towels up in the bathroom. Now, I'm not Martha Stewart at all, but I do love the holidays. And I panicked because I thought I wasn't bothered that Halloween was still represented after Halloween. I was bothered that I was losing time on Thanksgiving because there's only a few weeks left until Thanksgiving. So on one of my runs, I dropped Teddy off with my mom, and we met in the parking lot. And I popped into Home Goods, and I got some of those towels. And while I was some little, with acorns and stuff for Thanksgiving, you see what I mean? They're so close together. And I went into the frame aisle just because I have to poke around a little bit. And they had some beautiful frames in there. I have to say, I was completely blown away. There were 4 or 5 that were like they said from India. They were flat on the bottom, but they were like an arc, not pointed, just round like that. I mean, they were a beautiful shape and big, and they were like $12. And my first thought was, I'll get them all. And then I thought, well, then I'd have to do a series. And I think it was 5. And I thought, 5 of what? Like 5 golden rings, 5 what? And then I thought, I'll just get one. And then I ended up not getting any. But now that I'm looking at Karen's frame, I'm regretting it. But just a reminder, an unusual shaped frame like that, if you don't find it in a place like that, you don't want to have something like that custom made. And it's hard to find that stuff in antique stores. You can expect to spend 10 times more at an antique store, literally 10 times more. So make sure you check like your sort of cheapy stores out because they do have solid wood, right? It wasn't made out of like, crushed fairy dust. It was food. It was food. I'm hungry. It was wood, right? It was very solid. It would last forever. Worth checking out, right? I bet they have that same frame at yours if you're near one of those. But yeah, frames are a good thought. And if you see one that you love, you could always work it in reverse and take the frame home. And then if you don't have anything that fits it, you can make something new, or you can add a border or something to an existing rug, or you can just sew on plain quilt fabric or plain wool just to meet the border, right? So there's a little bit of a mat. You create a little bit of a mat. That is so easily done. So many things that you can do to finish your pieces if you're not a great fan of finishing the edges. And Karen, I think with all of the pieces I'm seeing here, has them all popped into frames. Kanga says thrift store is a good source of unique frames. That's a great call. That's so true because in a thrift store, they're not going to charge you the sort of antique store prices, right? You want to find stuff at yard sales and thrift stores and flea markets and things like that. Or cheapy peepee stores. That works too. But yeah, if a frame is a good quality, then you're not going to be ashamed to have your piece in there, right? This is a gorgeous piece. So let me come back to this one. This is the cover piece. So hold on. I see Karen gave us a pro tip. I'm going to want that pro tip. Let me find this one. I don't know how my slides are out of order because this is like a science. This isn't bingo. Okay, hang on. Let me just find this and then I'm going to catch up with Karen's comment. Gosh, where did I get this one from? Yeah, it was the very last page that I touched. Of course it was. Okay, so this is Motherhood Still Life #2, the living room. This is 38.5 by 30.5. Now this, remember the first one of Karen's we looked at was 14 by 11. These are much bigger. 38.5. Sorry, I'm so tired too. By 30.5. That doesn't sound like a custom frame to me. So maybe this is a special one. Or maybe she found it, like we're saying, and then she used it and, for this piece, made it custom. Acrylic yarns and wool and acrylic paint on linen. I wonder if you can tell the photo is not super great. My photo is not super great. Let me hold my book up just for a second, because this is a great pro tip too. Karen, I'm going to do your pro tip first. Let's do pro tip. Tap your framer. I have a favorite framer that has frames in the back of their store that might not have fit right to whatever for at least 50% off. I see what you mean. So they made like a boo-boo and then they couldn't use the frame and they just put the frame away. That's a great idea, because if you haven't finished your piece yet and you're a little bit flexible, that would be a great way to get mixed. That's a great idea. And it helps the frame shop out too, because if what they do is custom framing, they don't expect someone coming in and asking for a frame that's 38.5 by 30.5, right? That's a great pro tip. Thank you. Oh, Michelle, great to see you. Happy Friday. I like to see all those leaves rustling. Now let me show you this and see if it shows up any better here. What I want to show you is that the yellow background of this piece is painted with acrylic paint. So let me show you this. Part of it's hooked, and you see all that yellow? That is painted. So the background is painted. I've been doing this a lot with the stuff that I've been making as well. I love a painted background. And I see some of you finishing some of the painted pieces, and I see that you leave some of the background showing, and why not? It gives it a bit of a collage feel. Is that, yes, that is the cover, Kenga. This is the cover. Well spotted. Yep, it is. This is the full design in another one of these pretty frames by Daniel McDonald. I just love this piece. Can you tell from this photo that it's a bunch of Legos and a glass bowl with a banana and an apple? And there is a little doll that somebody has placed on top of the apple. And if you look up to the tree, you see that someone else, probably a Lego figure, one of the little mini figures. You can see up in the bouquet, there is another little figure balanced up there. And I love this piece as well, because it does, this one and the bathtub one really represent in a humorous and loving way the exact way that children disrupt your life and your stuff, and they touch your stuff, and everything is different, right? I'm thinking of that Brandy Carlisle song, The Mother, that is so beautiful about everything that gets changed and broken. And through the song, she just keeps making remarks like, well, we weren't meant to have that anyway, or, all of the important things are here. But yeah, the idea that your civilized world gets sort of infiltrated with all of these trappings of childhood, and you're finding things in places where they don't belong, that just becomes your life, right? And that is one of the beautiful things and aggravating things about being a parent. You can never stay ahead of the wrecking ball, right? No matter how many wrecking balls you have around, it's just not possible. Judy says, oh, I wouldn't have seen the little figure in the leaves. That's precious. It is, because you can picture how precarious that figure is there. And, when kids are putting stuff together, like balancing and building and stuff, they are very, very careful, and at other times wildly unfocused and violent, ruffians. So it goes in every direction, doesn't it? That is the fun. You do not know what you're getting. But I really love this piece as well. And I love, for this book, I love Karen's, I love all the pieces in this book, but I have to say, I really love Karen's motherhood series, particularly this one. There's another motherhood series that's more abstract that I'm not as fond of. But this series, the amount of storytelling and the fact of it being, for me as a person who does have kids, so relatable. Um, I feel like she has really tapped into um, a vein, right? A golden vein. I feel like she has done something. She's done multiples, right? She's done the whole series of something that we talk about sometimes or we occasionally see, but that is absolutely worth exploring and evolving as a really fleshed out series. Which does make me wish that there were more. There are more in the book, but it does make me wish, if I'm honest, that the whole book was the Motherhood series by Karen D. Miller. And as much as all of the other pieces are great in their own right, and they all are, I kind of wish that that I was holding a book that was completely just this series and seeing all of these little still lives that have this sort of funny twist to them, right? Again, it's just a question of um, what you like, because this book does represent a lot of different artists, and of course that's fun too. Sharon, great to see you. Great to see you. And Karen says, look at how skilled the glass is hooked. I didn't even notice that, Karen. You're right. It is, because that is not easy. The hooking on the glass. The bouquet is a very Van Gogh bouquet, isn't it? Um, because I'm thinking of his, I guess it's irises. I think it's his irises. Sunflowers too. They do. It's like a vase of overstuffed flowers that are a little bit wilted and drooping a little bit. Kanka says reflection of objects on the table. Wow. I know. I didn't get that either, Kanga. Thank you. I was thinking they were just like double stacked. You're right. There is a reflection. Is there a reflection in the glass bowl of a female figure with brown hair and a black sweater, or am I just making that up? I'm getting too ambitious maybe, but you both are right. The translucent impression is so amazing. It is. I'm so glad that you all picked up on that. I jumped right over that. I'm just looking at, where's Waldo? I'm like an infant looking at what I can see, and you found the nuances, the really highly technical parts to this. And yeah, I would say probably the most difficult part to hook in this would have been the glass bowl, and the reflection coming in second, right? It's really interesting because just talking through this, doing this level of technical, having this level of technical prowess, and then choosing to paint the background, I think is a super artistic choice. I think it gives us some relief from searching and finding. We're able to kind of rest in the background, even though it's a bright, very, very high energy background. um, your eyes are traveling, and now mine is too, to all of these technical details. And yeah, this is very technical rich. However, it remains a very graphic style. And how is that done? Well, for each person it's done differently. And if you wanted to be able to work like this, you you would be saying to yourself, well, am I going to do a composition with both a vase and a glass bowl, right, and a reflection on the tabletop? Because learning the trick to how Karen did this would only work, for example, if you are doing a glass bowl with a reflection. Um, so it's not a case of style, is it? I think it's a case of confidence. I think it's a case of studying fine art, photography. I would say rather than setting up your own still life, look at photographs of and old paintings. You could set up your own still life, but then you would have to be able to depend on the light being the same every time you looked at it. Because if the light was slightly different, you would think that you had made a mistake and you would try to correct the mistake. By the time you finish correcting the mistake, you know it, right? It's going to change again. So still lifes are tough unless you can absolutely control your light, the whole circumstances of the still life. You have to control everything. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point. You might as well take a picture and work from a picture. Um, Judy says, I thought it was a woman too, but it may be a yellow Lego. Could be. Could be. It could be a person. Yeah, it could be a Lego. Could be a person a Lego who fell into the bowl. Karen says the banana was a very important color to balance the background, the triangle of color. Absolutely, that's very well spotted as well. It is important to have that color. Yellow is a tough color. It's a tough color. It's a color that not everybody likes. I'm personally not a fan of yellow. In this case, the bright yellow I love. The sort of wimpy yellows, I'm a huge unfan of those. I always have been, and I don't know why. It's just the way it strikes me, right? We're allowed to have those unreasonable thoughts. This yellow is very punchy. It's bright. It's an attention grabber. But you do notice how she has used the same yellow, which is kind of part of the joke, right? It's part of the fun. If the yellow banana is not touching the yellow background, and that is key because that would create like a missing puzzle piece phenomenon that would be it would make this piece hard to look at, hard to read. So it's very lucky, but it's not luck, is it? It's very well planned in terms of composition that the yellow is not touching the yellow. But I agree with Karen. It's a great thought. It's important that the yellow be there because otherwise, this background on its own, is not going to relate well to like a mahogany table and the dishes and the fruits, the Legos and stuff a little bit. But the banana certainly helps the sort of casual vibe that this piece has. And Kanga says the yellow aids the composition, keeps your eye moving. Lego to banana to background. You're right. There are some yellow Lego as well. Well done. And Kanga, I love that you said Lego because you know that Lego is not plural. That drives me crazy when people say Legos and you did not. Lego is like a name, right? Um, I agree. I totally agree. Something about this piece has a lot of drama besides having a lot of humor because the adult parts of this piece are quite serious. Like I don't have a vase like that in my life, right? If I ever did, the kids have already broken them. Um, and in the glass bowl, like these are things that at this moment in my life, I would not put out. My kids are older, and I stopped putting out pretty things when they were young because I learned that they were not like hellraisers or whatever, but there was no point in having nice things around. Between animals and kids, everything got bumped or broken. Or I put it away before I did, so I didn't before it did, so I didn't have to worry about it. So there is something very sophisticated about the things that are chosen for this still life. The bouquet of flowers, although it looks like it's wilting a little bit, which does say something about energy and time passing, right? Droopy, it's a little bit droopy. The glass bowl is just sparkling. It's absolutely beautiful. It's still utilitarian, and the beautiful, shiny, polished table, right? All of this is kind of being corrupted by these silly little toys that have invaded, and that is the drama. It's the conflict or the contrast between the sophisticated things that belong to the adult world and these fun, colorful things that belong to the juvenile world. And both are very present in this one quite simple still life, right? The hooking is not simple, but the idea is quite simple. Oh, you meant the reflection of the yellow Lego. Yep. Oh, no, it absolutely could be. Yep, I see what you mean. Absolutely beautiful. Let me make sure I'm good. Um, Kinga says, Karen, yes. Yep. No, you both said it beautifully. Well done. It's great to study the composition, isn't it? Let's do that again for this piece. Let me just find this piece since we know that I am out of order. And let's talk a little bit about the composition of this piece. So you are all artists, and I can tell that because of the kind of conversation that we're having. And if you're not, and you're learning, hopefully you're learning some good things, then you're going to be able to incorporate them into your work. So let's talk more on this sort of on this highbrow level. This is fun. This piece is called Life in a Bubble, and this is 18 by 18, so it is a square piece. Wool and acrylic yarn on linen. Again, this is one of Karen D. Miller's 2018. So this is a square piece. What do you think? Why do you think she chose? And I don't know the answer. I can only speculate as well. Why do you think she chose to create this composition? Although it is a square, it reads as a circle. Why do you think she went for a circle composition rather than um, a straight up composition. And I think the title probably has a lot to do with it, right? It's a funny piece because the title again is Life in a Bubble. So I think it's important that the shape be a circle. Of course, there are ways of portraying a bubble without the piece being, the emphasis being this, no pun intended, squarely, um, dependent on shape. I think the fact that the piece is not a round piece, like the perimeter of it is not round, it's not a round rug. I think the fact of it being a circle rug is just busting outside of the square, right? It's just a little big for the square, gives such, it's such a trick, right? It gives such a feeling that this bubble is big, kind of about to burst. It's very watery. It's breaking the boundary of the perimeter. Right? It's breaking the four boundaries. I think it's a clever trick because I think the low hanging fruit would be I'm doing a bubble, I'm going to make it a circle shape. And that she's thinking, no, I'm going to make it not a rectangle, but a square with the circle overreaching the square. So not all matchy matchy and perfect. It's an interesting choice. It's a very artistic choice. I mean, you would really have to think this through to do this composition at all. The thing about the bubble, right, is that you've got the, like anything that is not a, that is sort of a concave or a convex circle is going to give you two, at least two reflections, and they're going to be usually top and bottom. So if you're thinking of like the lid of a pan or something like that, you, depending on the how concave or convex the thing is, it will stretch the shape like funhouse mirrors, right? This is interesting because we do get a little bit of stretch in the legs, which it is funny, um, but also the distortion and the fact that it's in black and white has created a lot of mystery, right? It's not colorful. This isn't a playful piece. This is a very artsy piece. I mean, it does have an element of play because there's children um, depicted, but it's a very artsy piece. Without a color cue for us, we're like, ooh, figures, are they moving through the snow? I see a lot of white. There's not enough information for us to feel like we're there. And because the orientation is so wacky, right? The context is we're inside a bubble. Because of all of these things, it's a very unstable composition. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it really adds to the mystery of this piece. Let me see what you all are saying. It looks like an ice puddle with a reflection of people hovering over it. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. For a split second, I thought, is it like gasoline or, at the gas station when you spill a little, there's a little gas spilled or whatever, and water hits it and you get like this weird rainbow. I was thinking that um, definitely from above, suspension, Karen says, suspension and tension. Absolutely. Things are not in the right place. Things are not quite what they seem. The tree is not in the right place, right? We are getting this bent, the refraction, right? Things are bent, and we're seeing the tree sort of upside down, and or it's moved, and we're seeing a shadow in the wrong place. It is very mysterious, and it is suspenseful. And with a piece like this, you really have to work for it. Kanka says the horizon is distorted to circular, keeping the composition left to right movement. What is the distorted figure at 12 o'clock? I think it's either well, it can't be a reflection. It's got to be a second figure because I think at 12 o'clock that figure is shadowed to the left of itself at like 10:11. It seems like the same kind of shape with the arms out. It reminds me of the character from Christmas Story. I can't move, I can't move, or I can't breathe, or remember the ski suit. It's that kind of a shape. And it'd be interesting to look at this piece upside down, shall we? I'm going to turn this while we're here. Let's do transform. I'm first going to rotate it this way. Interesting. Okay, hang on. So okay, I do think that that figure is a lone figure who is probably standing next to the two figures on the other side of the tree. and that the whole image has bent, so it's gone around like in a U shape, just like you described, and that we are seeing the shadow of that figure next to it. And I feel like we're seeing some kind of a stop line, or maybe one of those markers in the snow, or reflector next to the tree, probably a stop sign. This could be like kids on their way to school or on their way from school kind of a thing. It might not be kids. They might be sort of foreshortened, funhouse mirror style because of the distortion, right? Ooh, the northern hemisphere mirrors the southern hemisphere. The tree is reflected. Let me turn it one more time. Oh, we'll do it two more times. We'll go all the way around. Why not, right? All right, let's turn it this way. Interesting. Because I'm noticing under this figure, it's much heavier. It's much darker under this figure. This figure has to be grounded because the figure is immediately next to the tree, and obviously the tree is grounded. Very fun. Now let me do one last time so we see the final. Yeah, that looks good too. You know, that thing might not be a figure. It might be a bush or something. Okay, let's see. The tree is reflected small. Huh. Now I'm getting confused with the lines that are around the edges. I'm wondering if they're like watery soap, or if that's part of the earth, right? All that veininess in the border. Interesting. And Kirsten says, anyone else seeing only part of the image zoomed in? Oh, no, you're not seeing all of it? Okay, let me make it, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller before we leave. Let me unlock. Let me do this just in case that's the case. And I'm going to center it, and let me turn it around one more time, and we'll have one more go at it this way. Because I want to make one more remark that I think is going to be helpful. I think 3D reflect. Oh, think 3D reflection. I see. I see what you mean. It is so interesting. Let me look at the book really fast and see if she tells us anything about life. Life in a Bubble is a snapshot of my feelings about being a stay-at-home mother. One day in late winter, while my son and I were out for a walk, I saw our reflection in a bubble in a frozen puddle. What I saw looked exactly like how I felt about my life at that point in time. For almost 5 years, I had been at home with him, and for 5 years before, I had been at home with his sibling. He and I were a little team each and every day, as connected as though the umbilical cord between us had never been cut off. That feeling would be ending in a few short months when we would start school for the first time. The bubble captured the togetherness that we had and reminded me that it would not always be this way. This is very sad. I'm pushing through it, but I'm choking up. At the same time, I also felt somewhat tethered and definitely lonely, although I also felt needed, some things asphyxiatingly so. And I was never ever physically alone, not even for a moment. I still felt alone. I was craving adult social interaction, but I had learned that my mommy groups were short-lived. That is so true. I met many other mother friends who were home with their children at different times. I won't read the whole thing. This is so relatable. And because I'm such an old mom, it wasn't that long ago that I did all this. And um, reading this, I'm remembering that, to her point, it is, and of course, I was in another country and I was learning the language, and I had a little bit of language, but I didn't have enough language to sound smart, right? I sounded stupid every time I talked, and I was always sort of embarrassed and a little ashamed that I just could not represent myself in the way that I wanted to show myself, and it was frustrating. So I had that layer of sort of misery. But on top of that, just the loneliness, right? You're extra lonely when there's a language barrier, of course, but the loneliness is a real thing for moms. And when you are, maybe you remember this if you've been in this situation, but when you have kids and you're out there in mom groups and stuff, it's so hard to make friends. And you think, well, why? Why is it? Because you have so much in common. But at the end of the day, if you're going to make friends with other moms, at least for me, like I wanted to like the mother, right? I wanted to sincerely like the mother, but if the mother had a child or children who were difficult, who my kids didn't like, who were rough, who were violent, who whatever, then it wasn't fun to get together. So it's almost like it's twice as hard to find friend situations when you're a mom, because you have to make like a love match between the adults and the children. And it's almost impossible. Like, what are the chances that that would happen? It's, maybe other people are more flexible than I am, but I would not just hang out with other mothers just for the sake of company if I didn't really like them. I totally get it. This is it's such a meaningful piece, such an emotional piece. And the one thing I want to add to this conversation is, um, if you're going to do a piece like this, I think you must have a photo. I don't think there's any question about that. Sort of recreating the circumstances of the bubble in the puddle. You have got to take a photo when you can. And be careful when you take important photos like this that you hope to turn into a composition. Be careful about the way, and this is perfectly done, but I'm thinking of for myself. Make sure your arm isn't sticking out, or that your body isn't posed in a way that it's going to be hard to fix it. Try to get it, try to not let it show that you're taking a picture, and it'll be that much easier to transpose it as a drawing onto your backing fabric and get going. Judy says, I think the solo figure might be carrying a bag, possibly the kind of splat shape is his or her shadow. Yeah, I think that is the shadow of that thing. That might well be. That is so interesting. I kind of looked at the book because I wondered if she put the photo of it, but she did not. So it leaves us guessing. It's a remarkable piece. Now, let me find this piece. Hold on just a second. Again, I'm sorry we are out of order here. I don't know how it happened. This piece is called Reconstructing Childhood. This is 20 by 29 and a half, hand-dyed wool and yarns on linen by Patty Colin of London, Ontario, 2021. Let me see if I can scan. Let's see. Um, I just found, okay, I'm reading from the text. Take single motherhood, for example. Patty Colin divorced when divorce was still fairly taboo. In addition to having to navigate her own emotions about about the now broken view of what she had thought motherhood, parenting, and my life would be, she also had to deal with judgment from those around her. She was keenly aware that as a woman, any breakdown of the family was seen as her fault. She knew that the expectation on her as the mother was that she would sacrifice her own happiness and stay in the relationship for the sake of her child. It would be wonderful to be able to say today that this antiquated and misguided point of view has become consigned to history, to the benefit of everyone involved, but unfortunately that's not true. In Patty's experience, the expectations weren't just put on her. Yeah, reconstructing childhood uses the imagery of a jigsaw puzzle representing how Patty saw her family broken into different pieces. I see. You see, there are jigsaw pieces within the composition into different pieces with the divorce, and her resulting focus on having to put the pieces back together in a new way that would work for both her and her daughter. I get it. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I can see what the symbolism is here. And it's a great piece of storytelling, and that is a great device using the puzzle pieces. It's absolutely beautiful. It is a sad story because it's you can say this is like it's like a generational story, that this sort of dynamic is something that happened in the past and it happens less now. But in my opinion, every relationship is its own unicorn, and people make decisions at the moment based on what's best for them, best for their kids, right? Different percentages of those things at different times in your life, and those things change and vary like the levels on a stereo. Everything is ever changing. So people make decisions or change their minds based on a million different things. I don't know that I exactly agree that this is a story that like should live in the past or whatever. I think everybody's got to do everybody's got to do what they have to do and make good decisions based on the things that are the most important to them in the moment. Certainly, I have a lot of friends who are divorced, and that was the best thing for them. And certainly, I have a lot of friends who kind of hang in and are happy, not happy, depends on the day. And yeah, life is messy, isn't it? It's a great piece of storytelling, and it's a very relatable story. Absolutely beautiful depiction, and just the tenderness of the mother, watching the child sleep. This is still one of my favorite creepy things to do, is like to stare at the children when they're sleeping. Um, it's something about it. I was doing it with Teddy early this morning. He was like, I was about to have to make him wake up. And man, his hair was still a little wet from the night before, or maybe he was all sweaty Teddy in the beddy. But sorry, that's Jossie screaming in her room. But yeah, I mean, he looked like a Hollywood movie star. Like his hair was all wavy and dark, and you know how he wears it like Bob Ross, and it was all like smooth and away from his face. He looked like a different person, and I love him exactly the way he is, and I love the way he does his hair. But it was just so funny. He almost looked like he was little again because of the way his hair looked while he was sleeping. He would never allow that to happen when he was waking. So I have to do these creepy, sneaky moments, right? Otherwise, I'd never catch these sights. Arlene, can you remind her that I'm doing a live show? Yeah, she's very excited. All right, I'm trying to find this page. I know that this is Rochelle LeBlanc. I just want to get you as much info as possible. Wait a minute. Come on. There we go. There we go. Okay. So this piece is called Hands Full. This is, wow, 41 inches by 17 by 8. Cashmere, wool on linen, cotton, thread, linen, polyester fill, wood, earthenware, medium fire glaze. And again, this is Rochelle LeBlanc, Katy, Texas, and this is 2015. So it seems to me like Rochelle is she's doing the firing, right? The pottery, the earthenware, and obviously the hooking. So for quite some time, she has been sort of the forerunner in doing three-dimensional people. And she's without a doubt a gallery artist, right? There's without, like, make no mistake, she is a gallery artist. So I know she used to teach classes and stuff. I don't know if she still does, but if you're thinking, like, is there a pattern for this? This would certainly be a gallery piece. She's got lots of pieces like this. If you follow her, you know. She really does extraordinary work. I'm reading from the text now. Rochelle LeBlanc carries all these themes a step further. Don't put it on too high because I was getting really hot. It could go on a little bit more, but yeah, we're talking about the fire. Um, Rochelle LeBlanc carries all of these themes a step further in Hands Full, a depiction of a young mother standing on a hope chest and struggling to balance her children in her arms. The mother's balance is precarious as she attempts to wrap her arms around her children, but her reach falls tenuously short. Not falling critically short, but neither providing the security of a more certain grasp. In this way, Rochelle conveys that motherhood is often full of multitasking, anxiety, worry. Okay, so this goes on, but yeah, interesting and beautifully done. And of course, part of the prestige, and she's also standing a little bit on tiptoes, I think, which for me is interesting because that adds to the precariousness of it. Um, I didn't realize that there was so much symbolism in the size of the children and the way that she was holding them, but now that it's kind of spelled out for me, I see that. It's neat because the mother's clothes are hooked, but the children's clothes are worn, right? They are like cotton clothes. Really lovely. It's really it's a cool idea. It's a cool story. Um, it's a quite modern sculpture, but it does have this domestic theme, which kind of grounds it and um, makes it again relatable, right? That is one of the themes of this book, relatable. At least for me, as someone with two kids, this is relatable to me. I hope I'm not being obnoxious by saying that, but the theme tonight is motherhood, of course. Judy says, I think the solo figure. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I caught that one. Kanka says, directional hooking in the hair, blanket, pajamas give movement. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I didn't see that. You're right. They absolutely do. Yeah, the hair is nice. The hair kind of pulled back, and that sort of mother do just quick, pull it back quick. We got to move on. Really, it's really a nice piece. There's at least one other piece by Rochelle in this book. So you can expect to see that if you have the book or if you get the book. So let me find this one. This is another one of Karen's own pieces. Hold on, I'm searching for it. There we go. There we go. Okay, Motherhood Still Life number 3, Nude Study. Sort of, right? This is 26.5 by 38, wool and acrylic yarn on linen. Again, this is Karen's own piece. And again, the frame is by Daniel McDonald. And another funny piece. At first glance, it reminds me of some photos I saw in the news this week. At first glance, it seems a bit X-rated. But then you see that it is like the Barbie's butts and things, and it's just a real mashup. It's funny because out of context, right? This would be a different kind of a party, but knowing that these are Barbie dolls, um, again, it becomes very relatable. And I didn't have kids who played with Barbie dolls, and I was not much of a Barbie doll player myself, but I did have friends who played with Barbie dolls, and I do remember these like knots, these pig piles of dolls in the most random poses all over the place. You just fling them, fling them off to the side, and they land in this very sort of undignified manner on top of each other. But it does make for a great piece of storytelling. Hold on, I'm going to take a sip. Sorry, frog in my throat. Again, this is, Karen, as I'm looking at her work, I'm noticing some different things that are all interesting. Now, the fact of these still lives, right, the motherhood still lives, um, again, the point is to create an unlikely still life, unexpected. Oh, Valerie, great to see you from Rehoboth Beach. Pizza night at Grotto. So that sounds wonderful. The Barbies in every toy box. Yeah, look like this when you have to put them away in a hurry. Absolutely. That's a great phrase, the Barbies in every toy box. You expect to see something that looks like Twister, like this. Just the juxtaposition of the toys and other things from everyday life that are neat and tidy, like the sink. The sink is neat and tidy, but here are the Barbie dolls, right? It's like put those down, or are they? Is it the sink or are the Barbies? Are the Barbies underwater? Huh. Gosh, now I'm not sure. Let me see if I can see anything about this. Nude study is a scene that confronted me, and there is truly no better word than that for the situation. One day I went into the bathroom. That is just one of the realities of motherhood, that you are only ever imperfectly in control, and life is full of surprises, both innocent and contrived, and both good and bad. On this occasion, my eldest child had gathered up all of the dolls in the house, removed all of their clothes in preparation for washing them, and dumped them unceremoniously onto the bathroom counter before going off to cause trouble somewhere else. Okay, so not underwater. The unintentional effect, well, that is what you wish to make of it. But even if rather more risque than the conventional compositions, it's still as close as I'm ever going to get in my life to having a model, or rather models, sit for me. I think that's a great sentiment. And the way that the piece is cropped also adds to the comedy and the joke, right? The joke is that you look and you go, what? And then you go, oh, yeah. Um, and that's the story here, right? And then you peel away the layers and you think, okay, there must be children involved, and they were up to something, and then they just kind of plopped them down and took off, and that's just what happened. But it is funny. One of the things that I'm seeing that she's doing sort of absurd subjects, meaning like not exactly serious, in great sort of detail, right? Not with utter realism, but graphically pretty accurate. And things like the sink, right? And things that are in the supporting characters of the piece. She's doing those fairly realistically. Again, it's still more of a graphic style, but you do see reflection, right? You can work graphically and still have shadows and reflection and things like that. And then other areas like the background where she's using um, probably a mottled um, yarn, or sorry, wool, for the blue, right, in the background. That's like maybe the wallpaper or something. Um, Another touch, she did that in the first one that we saw. She had like a fairly busy background. I'm trying to remember. Um, it was, hold on one second, it was the first motherhood one. Let's see. Does add patterning, and it does seem to be one of her tricks because she's doing it again and again. Very cool. She's working very graphically, but she's working in high contrast. So in other words, when you look at a photo on your phone, so look at the shadows like on the Barbie doll, right? That's very high contrast. When you look at your phone and you take a photograph and then you fool with the levels and you do highlight and then all the way up and then take the highlight out. You do contrast all the way up, take the contrast out. You do um, something like sharp, right? Not tint, nothing to do with color, but just things to do with highlights, light, balance, contrast, all of those buttons that you can fool with. You move them all and you realize that you can do some extreme shadow and light spots on any photo. Even when there isn't apparently any light, you fool with those levels and that the image finds where that light is. It is there, but you have to go to real extremes with those levels to find it. And if you want to do compositions like this, I think that's kind of where you have to start. You have to find your images and decide how graphic you want to make them and how you figure out where these great shadows are, right, or could be, is in fooling around with photos, with existing photos. So something that you can do, as you sit there, just grab your phone, take a picture of the lamp right on the table next to you, and then start fooling with the levels, and you'll see all kinds of light popping up where there really isn't any light. So the camera, the technology can do that for you. You just have to record it well onto your pattern and then refer often to the photographed piece so you remember what you're doing, right? Because it's like paint by number. There's a lot to fill in, and you've got to fill in all of that light, shadows, the darks, the contours, the contrasts. You've got to fit them in, you've got to fill them in exactly if you want to achieve this kind of storytelling, right? This level of success with this kind of a piece. The details on the Barbie mold is excellent. It is. It is absolutely excellent. And again, that's where making sure your pattern is very, very tight comes in, making sure the lines are there, and constantly referring back to your inspiration photo, the photo that gives you all of the information, constantly referring back. And that sometimes is the thing, right? Because you get going with your piece, you get hooking, you bring it and sit on the couch, you put your show on, and the photo is in the other room, or you go, well, I'll just hook this part of it and then I'll look, then I'll refer back to the photo. When you do a piece like this, you have to constantly refer to your photo, because otherwise you're not going to have the consistency. And it's a level of technical sort of responsibility that has to be there if the piece is going to be successful. Kanka says back last week's monochrome. Absolutely. Yep. Thanks for drawing the line back to that one. It makes perfect sense. You when you're working in a technical style, even if you're not going for outright realism, you constantly have to check your references. It's just like if you think back to what you know about famous painters, right? Famous painters in studios and ateliers like in France, and it's 1890, and there they are, and of course at that point some photographers had early cameras and they were able to use cameras, but not everybody did and not everybody wanted to. And whether you were looking at a photograph that you took or your model, it would be constant. It wouldn't be like, okay, let me sketch it out and I think I know where the light is coming from. it would be constant attention to those kinds of details. Um, because if you're doing any degree of realism, all of those things can trip you up, right? There's a reason why when you look at photos on your phone, all of those levels that you can choose, right? All of those things I mentioned and 20 more, there's a reason that they're all there. They all do something different. And it's all important. And consistency, the more technical your work is, the more consistent it has to be. When you get pieces that are, for example, monochromatic, I've seen, not in the book that we looked at, definitely not in the book we looked at, not in Donna Harkman's book, but I have seen monochromatic pieces that color wise, um, the maker did manage to make them monochromatic, but they just didn't, they just fell kind of short. Technically it's harder to do, so there's a higher chance, right, even that a great hooker would fall a little bit short with this kind of a challenge. But there have been times when I've looked at monochromatic or duochromatic work and thought to myself, the lines are right, but like the maker lost track of like um, all of the elements that have to be there, all of the light, all of the dark, all of the contour, all of the shapes that the shadows make. They all have to be there, and they all have to be ramped up if you're going to do these like technical jobs, right? If you're going to take this stuff on, they have to be there, because if you end up just like outlining stuff and going, oh, I think I got it, and then filling it in, you're going to have a beautiful, for example, monochromatic, but it's not going to have all those other things going for it, right? It's That's one of the things. The more technical you are as a hooker, the more things you really have to learn, remember, and stay on top of. Which doesn't mean that primitive hooking at the other end of the spectrum is easy or is for people who aren't that good. It doesn't mean that at all. Primitive people have to think, worry, and watch different things. But either way, the people who are very, very primitive have to be very, very careful, right, with their shapes, with their contrast, because the color changes are more infrequent. Everything is on a larger scale. On the opposite end of the spectrum, people typically are working in a smaller cut. They're doing more with shadow, with detail, with light and dark, right? It's more toward realism. In the middle is where you can relax, right? So either, I just want to make the point that we have been looking at very technical work in the last two books, and being a person who works in a technical style doesn't mean that you are better or that you've become better, right? There are certainly hookers who have always worked in a primitive, naive, folky style, and that's the way they want it. And if you're doing primitive right, you're paying attention to 100 different things, right? Not the things we've been talking about lately, but different things. So I never want anybody to log on to the show and think that I'm paraphrase, and that what I'm really saying is that you're a better hooker if you can do all these tricks, right? Good hooking involves a lot of tricks, no matter what kind of a hooker you are. Uh, but this is more technical for sure. Let's keep going. So this is another one. I showed a lot of Karen's because, again, it's not that I did like hers the best. I was going to say it's not that I do like hers the best in the book, because when I pick up this book on mothering, I know the voice is Karen's voice. I have been reading the stories with you, and I'm loving the stories that I'm reading. They are a little bit tearjerkery, right? Like they're a bit poignant, and I love the voice, and I want to hear more from Karen. So that's, for me, that's the thing about books that include lots of different artists. Some compilations are put together by artists, like this is the work of Van Gogh, this is the work of Karen Miller, and some compilations are put together based on a subject, a theme. So mothering, this is one of those books, but it doesn't, just because everyone who's in here is stellar and the work is all fantastic, doesn't mean, oh, this is just a close-up of the other one. Okay, I'm sorry, I was looking for a completely different picture. This is just a close-up of what we were looking at earlier. So here, take a gander in case you catch anything new. Um, but when I'm holding Karen's book, I most want to see Karen's work, particularly because the narrator's voice, right? She is the author, so she has done the writing, and it's her voice, and I tend to want more of her. And that's the thing about having a lot of other artists in the book is I feel sometimes like the like you manage to put together a book of a certain page count, and there is great variety. But I'm the kind of person who is always a bit of a purist with stuff like this, and I'm like, where's more? Where's another one from Karen? You know, this one I thought was great, and very very different. I'm searching for it, and hold on, because it's funny, and it's another one that's very relatable. Let me just get it. Let me just find this thing before I have to throw something. Oh, I'm a little sniffly. I hope I am not getting cold. There we go. Taking Control, Chapter 5. Not Your Doormat, 18 by 31. Cotton fabric, acrylic, yarn on linen. This is also by Karen, and she did this in 2021. I think this is really um, a great piece because it is a doormat, but just that sort of reminder that from the female voice, um, you know, I tend to say I'm not your maid. That's just like one of my go-tos. I usually say I'm not your maid while I'm picking up socks, right? So it's like so anticlimactic because it's like, what do you think I am, your maid? And meanwhile, I'm like putting the socks in the drawer and shutting it and picking up a couple more things while I'm in there, which is, I guess, not what you're supposed to do. But I think if you have been a mom or you've lived around other family members, um, you know, you have siblings or whatever, you do know the feeling of being a doormat. That once in a while time that you go, wait a minute, am I being taken advantage of here? This is ridiculous. Have I established this pattern and do I keep allowing it? It's funny. It's funny to say that in those words to me. I think that's really a sort of simple piece. And she seems to have, there is something technical going on here. I shouldn't dismiss it so quickly. Let me see. Wait a minute. She is, gosh, what is she doing? She's got something technique going on that I don't understand. I think I'm going to show it to you. Here, let me show it to you, and then you tell me if you can tell what's going on here. Do you see all the pins sticking out of it? What do you think's going on there? I'm just skimming it to see if it tells us anything because the caption doesn't tell us what's going on. It does say there's cotton fabric. Gosh, well, maybe one of you knows. It's not, it doesn't, there's, again, this is not a technique book. So while you're seeing a lot of techniques, it's an inspiration book and it's a storytelling book. But I don't know what's going on in that photo. I'd love to know what's going on. Because yeah, I'd love to see in the caption, like, this is what I'm doing in this picture. Even though it's not a technique book, it's a like, wow, what's going on? You let me know, and if you know, I'm going to go back to that picture. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep rolling. I don't want to be too late. I do get droopy, not 100%. Oh, I think this is a close-up. Okay, so there are some at the back that are close-ups of the earlier ones. There's also a lot of quotes in this book. This isn't something I've mentioned. There are tons of quotes in this book. So a large part of the book is quotes. I mean, you see them all over the place. So it's one of the things that is a constant, right? Which is also very inspirational, but it does help you to know what kind of book this is. For example, here's a quote from Trish Johnson. My sister and I helped each other because we had no mother to help us. We tried to help each other. So that's the kind of a quote that you get. Um, Carmen Bond. It's like this old adage that you need to put on your life vest first. I believe that unless we come to our lives with a sense of what we need in order to be happy and healthy as moms, parents, artists, friends, daughters, and much more, we won't be available for anyone else. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about that today, about putting the mask on in the plane first. Um, we were just talking about that at the group today, and in what context I can't remember, but I do remember saying, yeah, I know that they tell you that you're supposed to take care of yourself first or that you're no good to anyone else. But in reality, at least in my experience, that's typically not the way that it goes. I typically, I mean, even when like last week when I was so sick, I'm still driving the kids around, doing things for them. I mean, it's like, um, what would you like? What would you like me to get you or make you? Just hang on a second while I crawl across the floor to do that. Oh shoot, I got splinters on my hands and knees. That's okay. Let me just finish doing this thing for you. You know, everybody works differently. I might be raising some rotten, spoiled children. I don't know. I guess we'll find out one of these days. Are the pins indicating holidays? Interesting. Let's see. Let me go back one. You know, I'm thinking she hooked that part in cotton. And, oh, sorry, I showed it to you here. She hooked that part in cotton. And cotton does more with holidays because it's not as lofty, right? It's not as soft and puffy. Um, it wrinkles, right? It makes more papery wrinkles. That's interesting. I wonder if it has something to do with something that she's steaming. I don't know. Maybe. I've never seen that. I've never seen that technique. Um, looks like the pins are still in the finished product. Oh my God, they are in the finished product. You are kidding me. Holy mackerel. Kenga, good job. I totally did not see that. They are in the finished product. It's very, very faint. Well done. Here, let me make it bigger so you can all see it. Look at the T. That's the way over on the right. That's the easiest one. You see on the right-hand side how you're seeing them? I see. I get it. So it's a statement. So not your doormat. So it's not being used as a doormat. Because if you step on it, you're going to get like a bad sting, right? It's going to be interesting. Okay, so it's like it's a statement rug and it's not actually a rug. Um, it's tricky because it does look like, I mean, it looks exactly like the shape of a doormat, but well done. Thank you for spotting that. That would have driven me crazy. Yep, that's absolutely what's going on here. Not your doormat. It's like putting those little metal things up so birds don't sit and crap all over stuff, city buildings. And it's the same kind of idea, isn't it? Yeah, well done. Does that figure have arms, have an arm around someone? Yeah, another Barbie. Yep, around the Barbie's head. One thing I can say is at least these Barbies still have their hair, right? Oh man. All right, let's find this one. And oh, there it is. There it is. So this is a piece by Elizabeth Miller of Paris, Maine, 2021, Breaking the Cycle, 18 by 24. Hand-dyed wool, yarns, taffeta, stretch velvet, and green gems on linen. Success, joy, redemption, self awareness, perseverance, doubt, personal failure, anxiety, struggle, debt. Yeah, that is a nice piece. I'm looking at it myself now while I'm quiet. Um, yep. So another sort of message piece, a bit of a spiritual piece that speaks to society, right? Society's problems, society's symptoms. Um, Nice idea for a composition with children of different ages. I guess making a distinction between generations and change that might happen within or between generations. Looking out at the world from a distance. Interesting. Yeah, that's a clever piece. Gail says, "You clever Kanga. You have or you have fantastic eyes." That's right. The lettering very nicely. Yeah, the lettering is nicely executed. Remember, this was something that came up in the Donna Harkman book too, was talking about caps versus cursive and everything in between, and how important it is to get it right. Right. Remember Donna's tip, right? Because this is not a technical book, so I'm kind of harkening back to Donna's tip on this subject. She said, write the word out, cut it out, place it, and then trace it. Because if you're just drawing them, it might be that when you, remember she does the grid transfer thing, when you get them down, they shift a little bit, things get crowded, you're surprised they got crowded, now you're in trouble. When you have this much text, you really have to plan it out or you will find that you are in trouble. Very nice piece, very different. I'm gonna keep going. This is not, so this is an example of, there's a lot of stuff in this book that is not rug hooking. And again, if you think that's going to bother you, then I just want you to be aware of it. There is embroidery. These are sister crafts, right? There's embroidery, sculpture. There's lots of other kind of work. I just flipped by a dress. I flipped by a macrame piece. Hope I did not put Michelle McRelly's piece in there. I feel like we haven't seen it, and it was at the beginning of the book. Okay, here we go. So this piece is called, this is an embroidery. Um, this piece is called Spontaneous Combustion. 77 by 54, very large. Wool, cotton, and vintage domestic linens, machine pieced, hand embroidered, hand appliqued, and hand quilted. Amy Meisner of Anchorage, Alaska, 2013. Mama, what in this house can catch fire? Mama, what in this house can catch fire? Mama. And you notice that for every time it's repeated, a different word is emphasized. So it creates a different rhythm and pattern. It's an interesting piece. Um, let's see. I'm reading the text. Mama, what in this house can catch on fire? Was a question that Amy Meisner's then 4-year-old son posed to her. She responded by listing all the things in the home that were particularly flammable. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized the one thing in the home that was most likely to be spontaneously combust was in fact herself, trying to keep up with all of the responsibilities and expectations of her new role as a mother. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for you to read too, but now I get the joke better. Like, yeah, she's like, with all of these questions, this is one thing that I did experience with the kids, lots of questions, right? Not really repeat questions, but just a lot of questions. And yeah, you do feel like you're going to lose it, like your head is going to explode. So yeah, this speaks to that moment of mom, mom, mom. Have to admit, I still get that too. Appears the figures ascended stairs from struggles to success. Ah, in this piece, Kanga, a lot of S's. Oh, interesting. Lots of S's, all consistent. Oh, I'm sorry, the last piece. Okay, sorry. Yep. Yes, I see. Yes, it does seem like stairs, doesn't it? I didn't notice. Thank you. There is a color sort of gradation happening. It's going dark to light as it rises. So, yeah, you're right. Anxiety, struggle, debt leads to doubt, personal failure, leads to self awareness and perseverance. So, there is a shift of intention there. Leads ultimately to success, joy, and redemption. Okay, so there is a chronology to this. And yes, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot more sense. It's funny, you know, when I was reading this just now, I was thinking, what words would I use? You know what I mean? Because words are so different for all of us. If I was going to say like what, you know, a couple of years ago and things, my brain was not doing so well, like what words would I choose and what were my biggest worries? And interesting exercise, not necessarily something you want to revisit, but it is an interesting exercise as long as it has a happy ending, right? And this is an interesting piece too. So this is like, this is a quilt. So this is a needle art, right? This is sewing, but interesting piece. And I do like the sentiment behind it. I do like the backstory. This is another needle piece. Let me just find this one. And there are a lot of interesting pieces in here. There is, this is a book that has sort of a lot of contemporary, fairly sort of avant-garde work. So just be aware of that, because if you love traditional stuff and you don't like stuff that's very modern, this might not be your all-time favorite. But if you do like contemporary stuff and you don't mind seeing other fiber art mixed in, right, still interesting and beautiful, then this is very likely going to be a great favorite of yours. This piece is called Little by Little, There Was Scarcely Anything Left. Hand embroidered on silk. Ah, I see. Michelle Kingdom of Burbank, California. What a great name. 2014. There was barely anything left. So you can see the female figure, I didn't catch it at first, but she has become like hollow. She actually has like a cannon-sized hole through her body. So another piece of social storytelling, right? You give up so much of yourself that a piece of you is literally missing. Um, yeah, it's a bit of a sad sentiment. I do love all the little needle. I thought they were French knots, but they're a little bit looser than that. I do like all the stitching in this. It's a beautiful piece, beautiful shadows, and a great story. So very symbolic, right? Beautiful piece. This piece, oh, there it is. This is one of Karen's. This is the Tree Climber, 15 by 18 and a half, wool, acrylic, and metallic yarn on linen 2019. And there's the little climber. So again, another beautiful piece. I can't say for many of these, I can't tell you the Banana Still Life. I couldn't give you too much input with that. But with this one, again, I would say if you do like the look of this piece, getting the composition down, um, I would use my camera to hit all those levels and make it extreme contrast, right? Still bright, right? Still a high exposure, but extreme contrast. And sometimes it's helpful to change it to black and white just to get the pattern in, and then to go in, for example, the purple, the hat, I think, sorry, has the most, well, the tree trunks are quite good too, but the hat has a lot of detail on it, yet it is only two colors, right? So there is the technical difficulty extends only as far as shapes and finding shadows, contours, right? It's one thing that's different from the Donna Harkman book is you're not worried about tint. Remember, tint was in the title of Donna's book, right? It was part of the title. We're not worried about tints here. We're worried more about light and dark and shapes, right? Shadow. But this is all done by shape. It's a different problem when you're trying to work in this style. Not a problem. You just need to have very good notes, very good information on your pattern when you start. And you will be able to do this. You will, because your phone or any kind of photo editing program is going to help you do this. It's another beautiful piece. And this is another one with the yellow background. So I'm thinking this is Karen as well. Yeah, this is Childhood Interrupted. This is one of Karen's pieces. 22 by 19 wool, acrylic yarns, and acrylic paint on rug warp. And yes, I can relate to this as well too. Parents of children who lived through COVID. It's no small thing, right? Having been locked inside and had really no social um, cues from other kids or interactions with other kids for the better part of 2 years. At this point, at these formative early years, this was tragic for kids. Pandemic, lockdown, childhood, mask, bubble, 6 feet, nasal swab, it's all such online learning. Oh my God, sanitizer, it's just awful. Social distancing. All of these are just awful words, right? It's such a dark time. It's a remarkably cheerful piece. It's a very light piece. There is some sort of level of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm getting so tired. We have a few more to go. Some level of being at peace, right? With little signs like holding a flower, checking out the blade of grass, right? Appreciating the small things, but also the colorful masks, right? This isn't like the hospital ones. This is like somebody's taken time to make it like sew a nice, pretty one. Like we're leaning into it. This is what we get. This is the way things are. We're leaning into it. And these children are allowed to be together, but they understand what the rules are, and they're wearing their masks, and yeah, but they are, even though they appear to be outdoors and they are, not locked up inside the house, all of these words are still a huge part of reality. You cannot get away from them. They are outside, but all of these thoughts are still hovering. So, another sort of social commentary piece. And there's a lot of those in this book. So here's another one. This one is really striking. This struck me as like an El Greco, you know, the artist El Greco. Not that it's stretched, the faces are stretched out or anything like that, but I just thought just the sort of um, fright, fear, um, the faces, particularly in the background in the baby, are rather shocking. This piece is called When Mothers Can't Mother. 63 by 41, discarded clothing, fantastic. By Linda Friedman Schmidt, New York metro area. This is absolutely striking. Uh, Quote from Linda: when there is no nurture, what is the future? A generation of innocents will become lasting casualties of negative childhood experiences. And in this section, Linda talks about, um, I'm just catching trauma. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it. Terrorized by grieving, hungry, preoccupied, distressed, depressed. Yeah, I need to read more to be able to say something really smart about this piece, but it's obviously uh, a super striking piece. There's a lot of, um, what word am I looking for here? I don't want to say abandon, um, because everybody's quite locked in. There is an element of panic, right? Of just sheer panic. Yeah, it seems to be, well, the characters, it seems to be a moment of, like it's a precipice, right? It's not like I'm in a bad mood. It's like it's a moment of some sort of realization or some heightened emotion like panic. But it's a really striking piece. Very, very, and fitting very well into this book theme as well. That's what I'm happy to see other people's work when it adds. Sometimes I think like, oh, it's just, you know, some things that are like sort of fit but not really fit, or just like, okay, that's page count. But then others, you know, I think like, oh, well, that really is important to have in this book because it really is squarely within the subject that we're talking about. And for me, I do like consistency. I'm looking for this piece to share. We've got a couple more. Um, Dang it. There it is. There it is. This is called A Mother's Worry. 20.5 by 30. Wool acrylic yarns on rug warp. This is by Karen as well. A Mother's Worry. I challenged, okay, so she says, in recent years, as the character of my children has solidified and I can begin to see the adults that they will become, I have begun to experience that special worry that makes those mothers who came before me laugh and tell me emphatically that it will never go away. What kind of world have I brought them into? Will they be okay? Have I taught them enough, well enough, that they will adapt and find happiness, whatever the circumstances? This is such beautiful writing, too, isn't it? Looking at the world through these new glasses where I am not concerned only for myself is disquieting. I channel these feelings into a mother's worry. My two kids perch precariously on the edge of a cliffside with churning waters below them and an ominous sky above them. Unfortunately, this is too often how I feel about the world in which they live. I think that all mothers of every generation have worries for their children and their futures, but the current time period feels like a time when we have even more to worry about. Environmental concerns, challenges, social justice and equity, violence and economy, absolutely. I know this book is a few years old, but that is truer than ever. So, yeah, social commentary. These are very socially conscious works that she's doing. The Motherhood series are vignettes from inside the house, a little bit of humor, but a lot of Karen's other work and the work she has chosen is more along these lines. And luckily, there is plenty of text in here to tell us in almost every situation what we're looking at, right? This is I have one more to do because I realized Michelle McRelly's slide is not there. Either I skipped over it or something. No, I think it was at the beginning. We'll have to go back to it and make that be the last one. I just want to show you this one because it's here. Oh, this is Footloose and Fancy Free, 18 by 33, wool on linen, April McConaughey of Houston, Texas, 2018. Let me see if I can quickly. Footloose and Fancy Free is not just a memory. captured of April DeConnick's son and his two cousins at the Galveston Pier one Christmas. This piece has also helped her to face the bittersweet parts of motherhood, where we carry out our responsibility to guide our children into adulthood, all the while knowing that the cherished moments of childhood freedom will soon be but memories. When she took this photo, none of them knew that it would be the last gasp of childhood when the three children played together as children. April says that so many memories are like that because as as a mother, you never quite know when it will be the last time for something. Oh, I can't read anymore. It's going to get me, but it's true. It's so true. Um, you don't know. I think sometimes you realize much later, oh, that's the last time that I don't know, something that you can't repeat because of the age, right? When something closes, oh, that was the last time we ate at that place, and now we come this year and we mean to go and it's closed. So I guess that last time was the last time that we'll ever be, right? Um, these things, yeah, really get to me too. It's a beautiful book. I could see sitting in bed and crying, reading some of these. I could see that being actually a lot of fun. So I do have Michelle's piece here, and we have looked at this piece in person because when she was working at this, I was sitting at her dining room table. I should go over and visit her again. She's a bit further now. That's the thing, but it's not that prohibitive. I was sitting at her table and we talked about this piece during one of our early episodes. She told us quite a bit about the family, My Family Circus, 43 by 30, hand-dyed wool, yarn, silk, charms, beads, ribbons, seashells on linen. Michelle Miccarelli, New Haven. Michelle, and again, go back to this episode if you're interested, because she was telling stories about about the family members, and her flair for storytelling is just phenomenal. Michelle Miccarelli's My Family Circus draws the parallel between a circus and a household to represent the multiple roles that mothers take on to raise a family. The comparison is apt because while both are mostly fun, there can be no mistaking the amount of unseen background work that goes on to give the outward appearance of a well-oiled machine, or how it is an enormous challenge for one person. Michelle depicts herself as the clown, whose job is to keep everybody happy. So that's the figure at the bottom left in blue. And a refrain that will be familiar to mothers everywhere. Michelle has added perspective of now watching her daughter and daughter-in-law raising their own children, and how they are having to keep everything balanced and not letting any of the balls drop. They have become the tightrope walker and the juggler, and respectively two more motifs that every mother in the world will not just recognize but feel instantly. That's a beautiful piece. I remember her talking about the figure on the bottom right with the tattoos on the arm that I think she was working on those or something. We were talking about how she was going to handle that tattoo cuff at the bottom. Oh, that was fun. Yeah, I have to get over there again. All right. Well, it is time. I really enjoyed looking at that. The two books we looked at this week, they were two books that I hadn't bought because I just don't work in this style. And that's very sort of um, just narrow thinking on my part. Just because I don't work in in a more technical style doesn't mean that I can't and I don't and I wouldn't appreciate seeing these beautiful pieces that someone else does who works in a completely different style. You don't just because you like, for example, eating, I don't know, oatmeal, doesn't mean that if you go to the diner and you go, oh, Jesus, nobody but me is eating oatmeal in here. What, does everyone need an omelet this morning? We just don't think like that. Variety is the spice of life. It's true. So it is important to look at and to just constantly seek out work that is different than your own, because it's always surprising the things we got talking about tonight, right? The things that we saw in the compositions, right? We talked about composition, we talked about light, we talked about contrast, we talked about technique, we talked about optical illusions. So many different things come up every time we look at other work. It's important to just keep looking at other work, even if it's not your own style. Who cares, right? It's not all about me, right? It's not all about you. It's bigger than that, thankfully. So, all right. That one hit home, Gail. Yeah, there's a few that got me in there. I have to say, Karen is a beautiful writer. I mean, that writing is exquisite. Um, she's very articulate, and she's able to portray emotions in a way that she makes everything very relatable. It is a beautiful book. So, in this episode, we have been looking at The Art of Mothering of Mothering: Our Lives in Color and Shadow. Karen D. Miller. It's a beautiful title too, and it's a great cover. I think we enjoyed this piece hugely. And this is one of the new releases. Always Something to Learn, Diane. That's it, right? That's it, exactly. This book came out in 2022, right? So it's only 3 years old. Such a beautiful book. So, yeah, so be thinking about that. I think I might have the link to this in the video. You can check and see if it's there. Of course, I always get a kickback if there's a link and you buy something through the link, and I always appreciate it because, of course, I'm advertising someone else's stuff tonight, not my own. But again, it's not all about me. We have to talk about all of the things that we see and all of the other people who are in this space because they're all doing, including you, beautiful and important work, right? We want to see all of it. So, alrighty, I will be back with you on Monday. We're going to take a drive tomorrow. We're going to go to New York State, but just a couple hours away. And yeah, I think it's going to be another busy weekend over here. I don't think we're going to make it to a corn maze this weekend. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully there's a quiet time. I will sort out how many of the swag bags are left over from the Halloween party, and I will first offer them in Patreon. And again, they have wrapped books. The Donna Harkman was one, Karen Miller is one, and there were at least 4 other books. And in your swag bag, because the books are wrapped, it could be any of the books. I don't know. But I like to keep them wrapped because the point is for it to be a surprise. So um, I'll send a message out to Patreon first and see. And of course, you can get more than, they're like lottery tickets, right? If you get more than one swag bag, odds are you're not going to get the same book, but it's not impossible that you do, right? It's impossible for me to know. Now I've wrapped them, but I'll do that a little bit later. Um, those are out, and I've also in the last few days um, designated quite a few of the designs for the Spilling the Tea patriotic book um, to a bunch of people. I think I have settled like 10 designs at least with different people. So I'm excited about that because we're getting some good traction with that. My goal for that book is to have, I don't know, between maybe 25 and 30 patterns. So we are well on the way. And there's some others that will be available. There's some others in my head, and of course, I'm hooking a few of them. So, yeah, Kanga, it was a fun night. Thank you for your input. Everybody, thank you for your input, and thank you for being here. Love being together on Friday night. It is such a nice way to wind down the week, right? You have one foot in the weekend. Enjoy. And I will be back with you on Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We might even look at another book then. We'll see what's going on. Why don't we say next Friday is gallery night? So a week from today, 7 plus that. So the 14th will be gallery night. And Shannon will put a shout out in the Facebook group, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, and say, send some gallery pieces in. We'll get those into the show for next Friday. But in the meantime, I will see you on Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a happy